results from the latest poll. It was a week of upsets, a lot of teams falling. Gonzaga has jumped back up to number 1, and Auburn, surprisingly, is all the way up to number 2. I don't think anybody really saw that coming this year. Arizona, Purdue, and Baylor round out the top 5. I would say that Arizona and Auburn are 2 of the big surprise teams this year. I wouldn't say that Auburn's a huge surprise. I think a lot of people thought they could be a competitive SEC team and be ranked. I don't think anyone saw them jumping all the way up to number 2. Arizona's a huge surprise, and no one had them anywhere near the polls at the beginning of the year. They are an extremely athletic and talented team, and they're living up to their potential and having a great year. This week, the big fallers were UCLA, Michigan State, and USC. UCLA drops to 9, Michigan State to 14. Michigan State, a big game against number 8 Wisconsin tomorrow night, actually, in Madison. And they really need to come back from a bad loss at home to Northwestern team. Northwestern gave Wisconsin a bit of a fight earlier this week, too. But that's a loss that they really couldn't have let happen, and they did. They're 14-3 on the year. They're going to be okay, and they usually go through a little bit of a midseason low, 2, 3, sometimes 4 games, but they need to keep that to a minimum. USC also dropping. I believe they were up to number 2 last week, and they've lost a couple games and dropped all the way to 16. Illinois had dropped out of the rankings, found its footing, and all the way back up to 17. Loyola, Chicago, and UConn have returned to the rankings this week, and Seton Hall and Alabama have dropped out. Quickly to the college football transfer portal. I'll have more transfer stuff on the Football Savant later this offseason, but a few notes I wanted to pass on here. USC transfer quarterback Jackson Dart, who is thought to be between Oklahoma and Ole Miss, also recently visited BYU. I think he'd a pretty good fit in that offense. I wouldn't be happy if I'm Jaron Hall and Dart came in there, though, when I have 1 year left as a starter, unless they make it clear that Dart's going to sit a year and then play, which I don't think is what Dart wants to do. Caleb Williams, former Oklahoma quarterback, seems destined for USC with Lincoln Riley going there. Family says they're not in a rush to make a decision. They're making the decision based off of NFL future, not anything like name, image, likeness, and all that. And the last report I saw said that he is supposedly between USC and LSU, which LSU was a bit of a surprise for me there. Also, another SEC quarterback hitting the portal, JT Daniels. It's thought to be a pretty good quarterback at USC. I never really saw it that much. I was looking forward to seeing him play at Georgia, but he clearly wasn't good enough to get on the field and beat out by Stetson Bennett. Dealt with some injuries there. He's gone back into the portal to see where he's going to end up. And also his teammate, Jermaine Burton, who's a wide receiver who started and had over 500 yards receiving for the Bulldogs this year, is also in the portal. And you can track the portal on 24/7 Sports or Rivals or any other recruiting sites that you may know of. Also in the college sports world, the NCAA has ratified a new constitution by an 80.42% to 19.58% vote. That's a huge margin. Opens the door for several changes in reorganizing the NCAA as we know it. We've known this reform was coming for a while based on the Knight Commission's report that came out some point last year. Among the changes that were known to happen, according to what I've read so far, the Board of Governors will go from 21 members to 9 members. Those 9 members will be 4 Division I members, 1 Division II member, 1 Division III member, independent members, and 1 former athlete. Independent as in outside of the organization, not independent conference-wise. Student athletes will also have a role on the board for Division I, and in Division II and Division III, they'll be on the President's Councils. I haven't been able to track down or how exactly those entities will be working together and within themselves and all that, but that's what is going to happen there. And students are also going to have some kind of voting representation. I don't know if it's going to just be the students on the board or if it's going to be a vote every student athlete or something like that. Again, we'll find out more later. There's also going to be more of an emphasis on NIL and avoiding the pay for play, because the payments that student athletes are receiving is strictly supposed to be for name, image, and likeness, although sometimes that gets misconstrued as they're paying athletes for playing whatever sport they do. I mean, I guess technically in a sense they are, but again, the letter of the law says that they can only make money off of name, image, likeness, and not the fact that they're just an athlete. Also in this was that each division is supposed to get its own budget, expenditures, and distribution for its members. Again, this is just like the initial reporting. Obviously, it's ratified, it's a new constitution, but we don't know that those are all the changes that are going to go into effect. By the way, they're going to go into effect on August 1st of this year. And like I said, with the Knight Commission report that came out last year, the NCAA has been heading towards reform for a long time, and this is a big step in that direction, and honestly involves the most radical changes that have been made yet. We'll have to see what else comes out of this when the notes and details become public. We'll have to see what's in there. In the NBA, there was a 3-team trade the other night. Bol, who had been traded to the Pistons but failed a physical, so was designated back to the Nuggets, is going to Boston with his teammate PJ Dozier. Bryn Forbes is going to Denver. Juan Hernangomez is going from Boston to San Antonio. Like I said, Bol failed a physical, and I think I read something about him needing surgery right now. Forbes, shooter off the bench, won a championship in Milwaukee last season, averages 9 to 10 points per game for his career, and he's still pretty young at 28. PJ Dozier, also injured, but has some promise as a backup guard. And Hernangomez, basically a salary dump for Boston in this one, as they were kind of up against the cap trying to make some more moves. Quickly going back to baseball, the Yankees have hired the first ever female minor league manager, Rachel Balkovec. I hope one of those was right. Will manage the low Class A Tampa Bay Tarpons in 2022. She's been working in pro baseball since 2012, and the Yankees hired her as a hitting coach in their system in 2019. Also, as you may know, the Atlantic League is an independent minor league that has had a partnership with the MLB that includes testing rule changes such as robot umpires, or what they really should be called automated strike zones, starting extra innings with the runner on second base, the pitch clock, moving the mound back. Its usual mound is 60 feet 6 inches. The Atlantic League was testing a 61 feet 6 inches mound. Yesterday, the Atlantic League announced that it is doing away with the stretched out mound and going back to the normal 60 foot 6 inches, and also getting rid of the automated strike zones, which sounded like great news, like the automatic strike zone was going to go away. Kind of a baseball traditionalist. I don't like a lot of the rule changes that have been put in there, although I would be all for DH in both leagues. That's a lot of fun. But today there's been speculation coming out that the AAA leagues, so the actually MLB-sanctioned AAA leagues, the International League, and I believe the other is the Pacific Coast League, there's speculation that those leagues could be moving to an automated strike zone this year, and that would mean that that is coming closer to the MLB, and I hope that is as close as it ever gets. Also, prized free agent shortstop Carlos Correa has changed his representation to mega agent Scott Boras. If you're a baseball fan, you know Scott Boras is the superstar agent in the MLB. He has a rap as a tough negotiator, a guy who gets a ton of money for his clients. And it makes sense for Correa, who's trying to get what might be the highest value he ever gets in his career. I mean, he's still a young player. We'll see if it takes a short enough deal, could conceivably hit free agency again. But it seems like he's trying to get one of these long-term max deals, which he's certainly shown he's worth. And he's had some deals that were close to that he hasn't taken. And, this move to Boras certainly shows that he is wanting to get one of those bigger deals and maximize his value right now. In the NHL, the Montreal Canadiens have hired Kent Hughes as their new general manager. He gets a 5-year deal to become the 18th general manager in team history, and he has a background as a player agent in Canada for at least 20 NHL players. The league is also moving on from testing asymptomatic players for COVID. Most notably, Red Wings general manager Steve Yzerman publicly questioned why they were testing asymptomatic players, and the league, as it appears in this new policy change, has agreed to that. They will no longer be testing asymptomatic players. Lastly, and hopefully this is the last time we have to discuss this, we could choose not to discuss it, but anyway, I'm going to discuss it this time. One last Evander Kane update before we lay that under rest. If you recall, he has had some recent off-the-ice issues, gambling allegations, assault allegations, fake vaccine card allegations, just being a locker room cancer and not getting along with teammates and coaches overall and stuff like that. And all that led the San Jose Sharks to try to trade him. They found no takers and sent him down to the AHL's San Jose Barracuda. Since then, he has been placed on unconditional waivers due to a breach of player conduct and violating the AHL COVID protocols. Reports from ESPN Kevin Weeks, TSN in Canada's Pierre LeBrun, and Sportsnet's Anthony Friedman have said that if he avoids suspension, he would be expected to sign a 1-year deal for the rest of the season, likely with a Stanley Cup contender. I'm not sure if I'm a Stanley Cup contender. I want to take on somebody with so much baggage, but maybe that's the kind of team that can get him right. TSN's Darren Dreger has also added that Edmonton, Tampa Bay, and Florida are all expected to have interest in Evander Kane. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you for listening to the Travis on Sports podcast, and be sure to like and subscribe. I will be back next week with a new episode. Until then, you can keep up with the show on Twitter or Facebook or whatever platform you are using to listen right now. Also, check out some of my other work on the footballsavant.com, the Football Savant podcast, and the ultimatesportsnetworks.com. But like I said, I'll see you later. Have a good week.